This is GDP, Governance, Development and People, a program dedicated to analyzing government policies and how it affects the people. Today on the program, we shall be looking at education. Of course, it's been discussed in different forums across the world that no country will grow if you not invest adequately in human capital. Now, of course, one of the ways where countries will develop human capital now through education. From budgeting to budget implementation to training and retraining of teachers. And of course, infrastructural development. All of this put together enhances education. But if you don't know, education has been defined as that process of giving or receiving systemic instruction in schools or universities. Some people, of course, define education as an enlightening experience. That is, anything will happen to you will make you learn more. But to make it simple, education is simply the ability to think. If you are thinking right now about something, about a problem and solution, you probably have a level of education. But of course, we know that no country will grow without education. Nigeria as a country, we don't suffer so many setbacks as it concerns development in this country. Of course, we do know and we believe that we have problems in our education system. But one of the things we've been discussing over the years is how do we solve this problem. Today on the program, we will identify this problem and look at what the government don't they do to solve this problem. My name is Twitwi Ayenowowon. We'll be right back to start the discussion. Welcome back. You stay on to Citizen Information Network, and this now GDP. Before we went for the break, you've been told that our focus on the program today is education. Of course, we point out some factors, but before we go into the problem, let's just give you a rundown of what the challenge has been prior to and even after independence. Remember, in the country, we suffered with academic system. Because when the British left this country and we gained our independence, we had to continue with the system they left with us. We suffered so much that prior to 1977, we had to change our educational policies and all of the rest. The changes continued and continued because until 1973, we couldn't really define our educational system and policy should be. So we suffered and we had to tweak this because we suffered more in terms of the number of children that gets enrolled into primary and secondary education. Because in the 90s, to be precise, in the 90s, what we had was we experienced a situation where we had 86% enrollment in primary schools. And by the time we get to the secondary, it dropped to a mere 25%. And this was not too good for us. But then, let's fast forward to now, the year 1999, when we came up with the universal basic education. But the universal basic education, which is supposed designed to cater for the primary and secondary school, which is of course from the primary 1 to primary 6 and junior secondary school 1 to 3, suffered some setback because there was no law to back it up. Until 2004, when then President Olusegun Obasanjo signed the Universal Basic Education into law. And this bill is designed to be 6-year primary and 3 years junior secondary. And the Universal Basic Education is designed to be free across all states of the Federation. Free. Because as at then, one of the major problems was that some parents find it difficult to raise money to put their kid into school. But with the universal basic education, we are still suffering and facing so many problems. And one of those problems are majorly budgeting. Because the United Nations, UNESCO, recommended that 26% of every national budget of every country should be on education. But we never really get that one so far for this country. Because as a matter of truth, the highest we don't get so far, now 7%. 8%, the highest we don't get so far, 8% of our national budget now don't do on education. So, without the proper education and adequate budgeting, will not really turn around the education system. No wonder recently when our president go abroad, he make a statement as regard Nigerian youth and talk, say, most Nigerian youth not get education. Most Nigerian youth not get education, proper education. They just want everything free. And even for the last part of the speech, he said they just want, apart from healthcare and houses where they want free, they want free education. But then again, who don't want free education? 1979, free education did this country. Before 1979, most of the people who the rulers for this country now free education they enjoy. They even enjoy the free education not just to primary and secondary level, but even to tertiary institution. So now, what will be the problem why we not still get free education? Even when UNICEF don't tell us, say, 60% of the entire 10.5 million out of school children for Nigeria now from northern Nigeria. We still suffer budget setback. Because, for example, if we look at what we get so far, we'll discover, say, for northern Nigeria, apart from Sokoto State, we'll live up to that level to budget 26%. 26%. We meet up that standard. Sokoto State meet up the standard. So budget 26% for education. But no state for Nigeria don't really meet up. And if we add up the total budget of both federal and national together, we'll discover, say, it not still reach 26% the recommendation by UNESCO. But for now, make we just get to hear with our president talk when the interviewer recently, and of course, in statement, don't translate and appear for pages of newspaper as referring to Nigerian youth as lazy. And when we come back after the break, we'll look at how much our president job budget on education and briefly be in budget. Is this sufficient enough or it needs to do more? We'll come back to continue the discussion. This now GDP.
We have a very young population. Our population is estimated conservatively to be 180 million. This is a conservative one. More than 60% of the population is below the age of 30. A lot of them haven't been to school, and they are claiming, that Nigeria has been an oil-producing country. Therefore, they should sit and do nothing and get housing, healthcare, education free.
All right, welcome back. You don't hear with our president talk there. Of course, a very interesting speech. We don't generate outbursts on the streets because so many people interpreted the speech to mean Nigerian youth are lazy. But a quick one here, let's look at this. According to our president's speech, a little above 60% out of the 180 million of Nigerian population are people below the age of 30. That one means, say, we get above 108 million Nigerians that are below the age of 30. And a lot of these numbers never go to school at all. But whose responsibility is it to make sure that we have educated population? It's only the responsibility of governments, federal, state, and local governments. Because what are the factors responsible? Why people not go to school for Nigeria? Is it that people do not want to go to school? No, if you ask me. Because everyone wants to be able to read and write. That is the primary basis of education, read and write. Because by the time you can read, you can write, you'll be able to interpret informations and you'll be able to think better. But then again, before we forget, maybe we just quickly take a look at something. Since our president entered, he took over government 2015, but the 2015 budget not been budget. It has been budgeted before he took over. He was sworn in May 2015. Yes, May 29, 2015. I beg your pardon there. But honestly, let's take the budget from 2016. 2016, the total combined budget of all state governments in Nigeria, put all their budgets together, they had a total budget of 1 trillion, 1.03 trillion for education. That is just 8.44% of the total budget. That is both federal and state government together. But that one not still even meet UNESCO recommendation of 26%. So, if you come go to 2017, the total state and federal government had a total budget, a combined budget of 993 billion for education. That now 7.3% of the total budget, which was 13.5 trillion naira for 2017. So, what you want to take 993 billion do? I want to affect, not forgetting the fact that some part of this budget now recurrent, now be saying now money them that won't go into new projects and infrastructures. Because remember that one of the major problems we suffer in this country has been infrastructure. You know, the school buildings, classrooms, laboratories, qualified teachers, and all of the rest. How much of this budget goes into retraining? Now, let's not forget now to say the federal government alone for 2017 budget for 448 billion. Yes, that's now the budget for education from the federal government post. While for 2016, now 367 billion federal government budget. Out of the 448 billion for 2017, now only 50 billion naira go for capital projects. So look at how big Nigeria be. So presently as we speak, only Sokoto State now don't meet the UNESCO recommendation of 20% of budget. But may we not forget that out of the 10.5 million out of school children in Nigeria, over 6 million of these children go for northern Nigeria. So far. Now the fault of these children say they are not going to school. Should our president have come out or gone to the international community to blame Nigerian youth for wanting free education? Did our president not get free education? How much did our president pay to get education? But we'll talk more about this when we come back to look at what we can do, the more things we can do to improve on this, because one state government, not just one, don't take a bold step. Even though some people not today okay with the decision, talking about Kaduna State and Edo State, their decision to sack unqualified teachers, recruit more. But we'll get into this after this break and a lot more on how we can improve our educational system. This is State GDP. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. You're still watching Citizen Information Network. And of course, you know the program is GDP. Our topic is still education. And in fact, we've said so much on education today. And now let's come through the solutions, because we generally identify the problem. We know what the problems are. The problems, of course, are, you know, lack of quality teachers. And one thing again, before we blame teachers, because the NUT has on several occasions risen to the defense of its members, which are the teachers. But let's ask ourselves, how well paid are teachers? If somebody with just a primary education can rise to become the president of this country and become a billionaire over 4 years, then why would a teacher who struggle, get trained and retrained, spend their own money on research, you know, to just meet standard, get that little wage called minimum wage? Why can't teachers have maximum wage? Of course, we know we can't move forward if teachers do not have their children in the government schools, public schools, where they teach, where they are employed. And of course, politicians. How many politicians picking for this country, they go school for Nigeria? These are the problem. And when we don't have quality teachers, for example, a teacher, what a teacher knows is what they transfer to the children. You probably would have seen an advert that runs on radio campaign, where parents went to pick up their kids, and somebody who appeared to them like the security man happened to be the teacher. What did they do? Immediately they withdraw their kid from that school, and they had to change the school to take him to a different school. Because once the foundation is bad, there's probably nothing anybody can do. So if we don't have quality education, quality teachers to train the children from when they are very young, you know, let's look at it from that angle. When you have teachers who are not qualified, teaching children, very young children. So The wrong things they teach these children will be the things they take out, the things they will believe. So if we look at what happened for Edo State, where a teacher not even fit pass exams, the same exams, primary 4, a teacher they teach primary 6 not fit pass primary 4 exams. And we expect these teachers not to speak English when Oshomole had to interview them.
In the Court of Appeal, AD Benin Division, holding at...
In the what? In the Benin? Who has public address? I can't hear.
Division. Holding at...
This word.
Judiciary.
You are my teacher, so teach me how to pronounce this.
Judiciary.
The same thing happened in the Kaduna State. We know definitely that government has not really invested so much on training and retraining, because everybody needs training. It's retraining and retraining. Now they make people really, they know the new things, the new scope and everything and what they have to do. But then again, one thing remains fundamental: the pay. The higher the pay, the more committed people will be. Because you go to public schools, you see teachers selling granola and all sorts of things in the classroom because they won't subsidize. They look for alternative means of income, alternative income. So, but if they are well paid, they have more time to relax. They have more time to plan. They have more time to give their all into it because they understand that their reward no longer there heaven. As people will say, that the reward of a teacher there heaven, but who won't die? So if government can really do this, and the only thing that will get government interested in all of this is if the president children's schools here in Nigeria and they attend government schools. You can't tell me that, for example, the child of Ambode will be attending a private government school in Ogba and the school will not be in good condition. Never. They will have all facilities. Go around the schools now. Some children, in fact, just a funny joke, which this one now will take us out of Africa. Remember something, an image that surfaced online where a teacher in Ghana was teaching computer and he had to go on the chalkboard to draw the computer because the children have not seen computer and the teacher had to continue to teach, so he had to draw computer on the board. So majority of us, this has been the same experience even in our tertiary institutions. I studied computer engineering, but during my MD, I wasn't allowed to touch even any of the facilities we had in our lab then. Because some of the lecturers who had to man the facilities had not even the prerequisite skills to man these facilities. So it was a general problem. Some of us had to go the extra mile to learn. You come out a computer graduate, you can't even use a laptop. You don't even know the panel, you don't know it. So this has been the problem. But again, for us to train teachers, for teachers to be well paid, for us to do the right things, we need adequate budgeting. That means government must stop giving National Assembly those fat pays for doing nothing. We must increase the budget on education. And to our president, there is nothing wrong for the citizens to demand free education. It is their money. It is not your money. It's not the money of any governor that they are spending on education. So if that is what the citizens want, give them free education. Let us make it compulsory. Let's not forget that something happened during Oduaga's government in Delta State, where Oduaga have the educational police. These are men that are trained that once they see a child who is supposed to be in school walking on the street, they arrest this child. When I mean arrest, not really arrest to prosecute. They carry this child, they take this child to a school, they give the child uniform, they go to the parent and let the parent know that if they repeat that mistake again, giving the child some things to sell when he's supposed to be in school or he or she is supposed to be in the school, they get arrested. They were informed. And this really changed the dynamics in Delta State as a whole. So some people have tried, but the problem we have again is consistency. So once one government fails out, another one comes in with something very bad, change the whole system, discredit the whole facilities, the policies put in place, and then we go back to square one again. But this is now an apology to our president. Mr. President, we know you mean well for the country. But then again, Nigerian youth are not wrong to ask for free education. Education has to be free. Because, Mr. President, remember, it wasn't your money that you used to treat yourself abroad. It's the fund of Nigerians. So Nigerians deserve free health, free education, and free housing. So we'll go for a quick break now. When we come back, it will be the end of the program for today. Remember, this is still GDP, and you are watching Citizen Information Network. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The program is GDP, Governance, Development, and People on Citizens Information Network. Of course, we've established on this program today that education is simply the ability to think. So, my brother, if you do not have the ability to think, it's not your fault. You are not a fool. You are not a waste. It's simply because the government have denied you your fundamental human right to get quality education. Yes, so it's our collective responsibility to ensure that moving forward, we do not support governments that will say to our face that education doesn't have to be free. Remember, we have countries in the world that offer free education to its citizens. Yes, talk of Finland, talk of Norway, talk of Germany, talk of Austria. The list goes on. Not all the time will we compare ourselves with US and UK. Remember that the more uneducated population we have, the greater the problem and the more difficult it will be for us to get quality leaders. Because our leaders understand that the less educated the citizens are, the easier it is for them to deceive them. No wonder politicians campaign and make so many unrealistic promises. Because they know all the people need to know is to just give them vague assurances. And when they get there, they deny all of their promises. But as 2019 approaches, it's our collective responsibility to ensure that the people are informed, and of course, we give the people their fundamental human right by letting them know that it is their right to quality education. It is fraudulent, in my opinion, for JAMB to say they generate so much money from sales of registration form and all of the rest. Generating 8 billion, and some people applaud the system. Yes, it is right to applaud because we understand that over the years, some people have looted this fund. But now that it's coming out, let's be sincere, let's be honest now. You mean say, if all the students when they register for JAMB, when they enroll for JAMB, all of them score 400 over 400, we get enough schools to accommodate them? No. So why make people pay money when you know, say, even if all of them score, they're not going to get the admission? So that is the fraud. And I'm in support of the opinion that says, well, the problem of the world now is that you have to pay to go to school. You need school to get a job, and you get a job to make money. That is like a vicious circle. Some people create this system to just feed themselves, to suit themselves, to make more money, and to continue to deceive the people. Until next time again, my name is Twitwi, and the program is GDP on Citizen Information Network. Do have a wonderful day.